You're watching C-SPAN, Public Affairs Programming. We'll continue talking about the President's plan for Iraq next on Washington Journal. And later in the House, a bill dealing with Medicare prescription drug prices.
Good morning. It's Friday, January the 12th. We have a 2-hour program for you this morning. The House decided late yesterday afternoon to come in this morning at 9 a.m. They'll be dealing with the drug bill. And the people you just saw on your screen, Defense Secretary and Peter Pace, will move over to the Senate in front of Carl Levin's committee later on this morning on C-SPAN 3. We have one guest this morning. Linda Robinson will join us. She's been to Iraq and Afghanistan many times. She's written a book about special forces. And she's a senior writer for U.S. News and World Report, and she'll obviously be here to talk about the war situation in Iraq and Afghanistan. For this first hour, we're going to, in a moment I'll read you the column, we're going to ask the question we've asked before about whether or not America continues to be the greatest country on earth, and we'll tell you why we're going to do that in a moment. But this morning we're going to divide our lines, Eastern and Central Time Zone, 202-737-0001. and 202-737-0002 Mountain and Pacific time zones, purposely not dividing it according to politics, just to see who cares the most about this subject and who gets to the phone fastest, and we'll do that in just a moment. First, let me show you what the mood is on the front pages of some of today's newspapers. Here's the Financial Times from this Friday, January the 12th, and they have a picture here of President Bush, and it says, George W. Bush leaves the White House for Marine One on his way to Fort Benning in Georgia to address troops and explain his new Iraq plan. Up above that is a headline on a story by Edward Luce, Bush stands alone with new way forward, in quotes. In addition to that, the picture that you see in some papers, but certainly not all of them, this one's on the front page of today's New York Daily News, is this picture of President Bush yesterday during the Medal of Honor ceremony, where you can see the headline is Tears and Fears, and they show the president with a tear on his cheek. In addition, today, Matt Drudge opens up his website, where you can see it clearly there, and he calls it Tears of a President on the Drudge Report. The same picture there from, I believe it's the Associated Press. And then this picture in the New York Post by Getty Images. It's a different angle from the president yesterday, which is not really used in that many papers, but the New York Post, the New York Daily News, and on the Drudge Report. This morning, we want to use a column for our question from Al Newharth, who writes a Friday column. He's the founder of USA Today. And the headline on this one is, Senators, in quotes, supreme while awaiting Bush. It was just hours before President Bush's Iraq New Strategy speech Wednesday night. Yet most members of the most exclusive and generally politically partisan club in the world, the U.S. Senate, were pleasantly socializing over dinner in the hallowed halls of the U.S. Supreme Court. Occasion, the 6th biannual Blue Ribbon Bash in honor of the senators of the new Congress. It was started by then Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott, Republican of Mississippi, and then Minority Leader Tom Daschle, a Democrat of South Dakota, as a way to get new and returning senators and their spouses together in a harmonious social setting. The Supreme Court Historical Society was selected as a neutral host. The Freedom Forum, a nonpartisan First Amendment-oriented foundation I-HELP forum, was picked as sponsor to pick up the tab. Featured speakers were Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Historical Society President Frank Jones, Freedom Forum Chairman and CEO Charles Overby. They said a lot of nice things about each other. Universal theme, history and harmony, how and why. Senate spouses contributed to the geniality. No lobbyists or pressure groups or other press present. After 2 hours of niceties, senators went separate ways to watch Bush on TV. Then many went public themselves on the air and in print to express agreement or disagreement with him and or with each other. Only in America, Mr. Newharth puts in quotes, despite all the stumbling and bumbling by Bush on Iraq for 4 years, most of our public servants here are good or supreme people. That's why, as Roberts, Reid, and McConnell attested, this continues to be the greatest country on earth. And that is our question, as you can see it on the screen. In your opinion, is the U.S. the greatest country on earth? We have those two numbers plus an international number for those living overseas who would like to join us. Our first call comes from Madison, Wisconsin. You're on the air, Madison. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Brian. It's interesting to have this question because a long time ago, I think I called up once and said we ought to look at some of the other countries in the world. And one of them I said was Norway. Now, I'm not going to say that Norway is better than America or that America is the greatest country in the world, because once you say that, you can excuse a lot of mistakes or the wrong-headedness. But I do think that a part of the last sentence of that paragraph about how people are essentially good at heart. I have a friend who's going to be going on a safari in Africa in March, and she talked about how people are generally good at heart, and that reminded us of Anne Frank, who was a German Jewish girl. Essentially, all people are good at heart, and we think that it would be a nice way to look at the world, that not that we're the greatest country. We have a lot of faults, and Norway takes such good care of their people, highest standard of living on the planet, and I think that we need to think about maybe looking at the rest of the world and the goodness of those people. So that's my answer for today.
Your family come from Norway originally?
No, it didn't, but as a young girl, I fell in love with Sonja Henie. So I studied Norway even when I was a little girl and have visited there, and I know people there, and we have good friends. My ancestry is essentially German.
Thank you. Lackawanna, New York, you're on the air. What about the question this morning?
About being the greatest in the world?
Yeah.
I don't believe we are anymore, and I think we've fallen from the treetops down to the roots. And the high ideals that the founders fought for are gone. The people have forgotten them, and I think they would be shocked at how the people had the ability to break away from one King George of the olden times to get themselves a new King George. But these people seem to have no will, no love of independence, no love of freedom, no love for the country. We don't have a love for the country. We have a love for the wealth of the country. And the people in charge, they're making us worse. And I wish people would look on the web for a letter that was supposedly written by George Washington called George Washington's Visions, and you have to put it on the search and bring it up. And he speaks about it and how no one department should be allowed to usurp power under any guise. He says no one, because if they claim security and you give it to them, he said you're going to lose all security. You'll lose all independence. And look it up and read it for yourself. It's called George Washington's Visions. Whether he wrote the letter or not, I don't know. Somebody says it was written in the 1800s. But nevertheless, if it was written back in the 1800s, it was very prescient. It describes today's world to a T. So please look it up, people, and remember what our country is about. Thank you.
Continuing to ask the question that Al Newhart states this morning, that this country continues to be the greatest country in the world, and we're asking Laurinburg, North Carolina, what your reaction is to that.
Yes, good morning. I lived in Saudi Arabia for 5 years, and when I came back, one of the things that struck me was, you get the onslaught of media and advertising and politicians. It's that Americans are told all the time, we tell ourselves, our media tells us that we are the greatest country in the world. And, it's really, it's a false impression. I'm glad you have an international line, but it would be interesting to be able to really find out what the rest of the world thinks. But it's beware of a false impression, because there's a lot of areas, particularly in education, where I think we've got a long way to go. Thank you very much.
On the screen is the international number, and we're often on the world satellite system on a Friday morning. It's 202-628-0184. Those of you who live overseas, give us a call, and we'll be glad to get you in on this discussion. We go to Santa Monica, California. You're next. What do you say?
Good morning, Brian. It's
Hi.
actually Santa Maria, California. We're just north of Santa Monica.
My apologies.
No problem. Sir, I was also stationed part of ELF 1. I am a Desert Storm veteran, and I thank God that the President currently is taking the steps to do what he needs to do. Look, we just took out Saddam Hussein. I was over there, part of ELF 1. My name is Rick Chrisman, and I can tell you, all of us that were in the United States Air Force at that time are very happy. We were in Riyadh. The king, Fahad, was the king, and we were actually, at that time, backing Saddam Hussein.
So what about this country? The question this morning is does this country continue to be the greatest in the world?
Absolutely, Brian, and the reason being is we have a constitution that says we will not allow things in the other, like other countries. I understood the first caller. I don't want to bash her, but I can tell you, I've been around the United States, I've been around the world. There's no other country that has the wherewithal that we, the people, can control.
Chicago, Illinois, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir. I think America is the greatest country in the world, and the whole world, and it will continue to be the greatest country in the whole world. You know, all these people that are bashing America say they're not the greatest country. Will you believe it? If you ask all these people, would you like to have a visa and green card to come to live in the U.S., all of them will say yes. They will love to have a visa and a green card to come to the U.S.
When did you come to the United States?
I came to the United States since 1983.
And where did you come from?
I'm from Haiti. I was immigrant in Canada, and from Canada I came here.
Why did you do that?
Well, because I think America is the greatest country of the whole world, and we have more opportunities. We have everything. You could be anything you want to be in this country, and there is no other country that offers that.
What do you do out in Chicago?
I'm a shop owner in Chicago, and I came here from Canada. I was a high school graduate. I didn't go to college. I came here. I went back to college, and after that, I was working in the corporate world. Then I found out that's what I want. Then I went and opened my own shop. You know, that's the greatest country in the whole world. And all these people you see carrying flags, they hate America. Believe me, if you talk to these people, you said, I'm not going to let your government know about it. I'm going to offer you a green card to come to live in the U.S. All of them will say yes.
Thanks. Falls Church, Virginia, what do you say about our question this morning?
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
It's a pleasure for me to talk with you this morning. America is still the greatest country, in the world, but view what's going on, this 21st century. We hope that this image continue because everybody in the world and they was traveling, around, and everybody likes to be here, to live here. But view what's going on, view what the initial caller he said. Really, when people they don't hate, America, but they hate or they hate the behavior of the politicians. That's it, So what we hope is just these politicians they could keep a good, picture of, this country and this land, and they could behave more fairly and objectively, and what they really, they could keep America as the greatest country. But even though it's a greatest country, we couldn't argue about that. But just politics-wise, that's how they put, this many negative impact.
Where are you from originally?
From Morocco.
And when did you come to the United States?
1998. I didn't come young, so.
And why did you come here?
Well, I came here because a challenge and to improve and my skills and really to get what I am looking for, and also for the education of my kids. And I could say that nothing is impossible here, and I regret not to be here young. And also I regret that I left my country. It's nothing to do with here or there, but the fact is you would like to improve and to challenge and also to work when your country you were born.
We are talking about a column that Al Newharth writes today in USA Today, and he's talking about an organization that he founded called the Freedom Forum, which funds a dinner every 2 years over in the Supreme Court for the new members of the United States Senate. And his concluding line is he's talking about Chief Justice Roberts and Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell all being together, attesting that this continues to be the greatest country on earth. Ann Arbor, Michigan, what do you say?
Good morning, Brian. Yes, I'm Jim from Ann Arbor, and I'm a baby boomer, and I'd like to say when I was growing up, this was the greatest country in the world. But I think we've lost our moral compass, okay? We used to have the Christian values, and Jesus taught that you should use power to do good. You shouldn't use power to gain power. And I think we've really lost our way, because now what our politicians and our religious leaders are doing is using their power to gain more power for themselves.
Where would a country be that could be labeled the greatest on earth? Is there one?
I think this is still a great country, but I just think we've really lost some of our greatness by losing our moral fabric.
Salt Lake City, Utah, you're on. Good morning.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Good.
Okay, I've been here for 35 years, and I choose this country, and I love this country. But if you are going to ask people what's the greatest country, it depends what we are looking for from a country, For sure, if you're looking to politicians, we have corrupt politicians, which really shameful, and we cannot call ourselves the greatest. But altogether, today, if you go to Europe and you call yourself a Euro-American, believe it or not, they will laugh at you, because we are losing through our politicians some of our greatness, which we are not deserved to be lose that.
Where did you come from?
I'm coming from Armenia.
And why did you come here?
Oh, I came here because at the time it was the best country to have educated, and I have one son, so I said we came here for his education, and I'm very glad to be here. Having said this one, because at the time it was communist country, and I could see corrupt politicians, how they are doing with my country at the time. I can see right now the same thing, and, it is good country.
Thank you, caller. Brisbane, Australia, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, America certainly is the greatest country on the planet, but I fear we're very much in decline. And experience now living overseas gives me a great deal of fear that the partisanship, the corruption, the focus on money, many things are undermining what made America great and what could continue to make America the great democratic experiment.
How long have you lived in Australia?
Since about 18 months.
And why are you there?
I'm a student.
Doing what kind of studenting?
I'm studying linguistics and Shakespeare.
And what about the Australians? Do you hear any of the kind of discussions we're having here right now about their society?
Oh, very much so, because the dominant party in the federal government here is taking many of its leads from the Bush administration. And so from an economic perspective, Australia, which has been a place with a great middle class and not extremes, is more and more becoming a place of extremes like America.
Well, what about Australia? What there is so much, I don't want to apply any values, but I mean, what's the difference between living in Australia and the United States, and why wouldn't Australia be the greatest country on earth?
Well, it's a very egalitarian place. That is, everything is pretty much in the middle. But I don't think that they're not interested in the kind of accomplishments, achievement is not valued in the same way it is in the United States.
Let's go to Champaign, Illinois. You're on the air. What do you have to say about this morning?
I think our country's flaws, and I'm very cognitive of its flaws. It is, if we can jump to that superlative as being the greatest, this country is the greatest. There are many opportunities here in our country, and many of them we tend to take for granted. But I think if we can make that leap, Brian, then this is a great country.
Is there another country or countries that you would suggest are close to being as good as this country?
No.
Dundee, Florida. Good morning.
Yes. Hi, good morning. How are you?
Fine.
This is the greatest country in the world. I've been living here for the past 24 years, and there's nothing like America.
Where are you from?
I'm from Guyana.
From Guyana?
Yeah.
What's so great about this country, in your opinion?
Everything you can think about, everything, including education, everything you can think about.
Why did you come here?
I come here because it is the greatest country, and this is the most freedom you can get from any other country is America.
What's the difference between the United States and Guyana?
It's a big difference, very, very big difference. First of all, the food is not good in Guyana. Everything is good here. Everything you can think about is good in this country. And I would like to see more people come here and enjoy this country.
Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Oh, yes, hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having me on. I still feel that the United States is a wonderful country. I love my country, but I'm unhappy with the direction in which things are going. We have more arrogance, it seems, in our foreign policy. It seems that all we're about anymore is consumerism, rampant consumerism. The education is very poor these days. I hear the way children speak on the streets and when I'm at work, and also children's behavior. I just wonder, it doesn't seem like anyone is parenting anymore. And I'm not saying that this isn't a great country. I'm not sure that I can say, though, that it is the greatest country.
Where do you think this interest in consumerism comes from, and do you think other countries have it also?
Well, I do think that other countries are starting to have it because we're importing our ideals, if I can call them that, around the country. But I think that the consumerism comes from all the advertising and from corporations just stopping at nothing to make the bottom line. Profit is all they care about. They don't care about their employees or the families of employees. They do on one sense, but not as deep as they should in order to stop the erosion of the family.
Do you think there is a country in the world or other countries that care more about and their businesses care more about their employees?
I think that there are. Offhand, I couldn't name some, but I think that it's becoming less and less. I think that most industrialized countries are heading in the direction of the United States, and that's unfortunate.
Denver, Colorado. Go ahead, please. You're on. Hello, Denver.
Good morning, Brian. Such a privilege to talk to you. I think that it is very hard for most Americans to say whether or not we're the greatest country on earth because most Americans lack any information to judge by. I think certainly we're the strongest nation on the face of the earth. We are the world's hegemonic country, but I don't know if any of us is qualified to judge, except for your international callers, whether or not we truly are the greatest country on earth. I think we all need to know a lot more.
How much traveling have you done?
Very little, very little. And I'm certainly not qualified to judge.
What do you do in Denver?
I'm disabled.
Are you at home all the time?
Yeah, and I'm a C-SPAN addict.
Glad to have you with us. So go to Kansas City, Missouri. You're on.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'd say we got a long way to go before we're the greatest country on earth, considering the poverty rate, the crime rates in the cities around the country are just horrible.
Where would you move to where it would be the greatest, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I'd probably say London. But then again, we also have a mounting deficit that's just out of control. So we got a long way to go before it's the greatest country. I mean, even during the
hello.
Yes.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from South Korea.
Good morning. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell our last caller I didn't mean to cut him off. I just punched the wrong button. Where are you in South Korea?
I am in Itaewon.
And are you what citizen of what country are you?
I'm an American. I'm a black American. I'm in Itaewon. I'm currently in South Korea teaching English at Hankook University School of Foreign Studies. I think America is, I think the answer to that question is yes and no. I've been pretty much all over the world, and what makes me more a unique person to view this question is that I'm a black American, and also I'm a Muslim. And I've been a Muslim since 1986. And I've been to a lot of the Muslim countries. I've been to Brunei. I've been to Malaysia. I've been to Indonesia. I've been to a lot of countries. And South Korea it has some good aspects to it and some bad aspects to it. And I think the core aspects of American infrastructure is education and healthcare. I'm very enlightened to see the healthcare infrastructure in South Korea. I think is compared to America, I think is very good. I was sick here, got good healthcare at a cheap price, and I've been to other countries who have a good safety aspect to it. It's very safe. I was in Brunei. It's very safe, like 99% crime-free. Different aspects to different countries, but America has some very good aspects to it as well.
How long have you been? How long have you been in South Korea?
I've been in South Korea about a year now.
Where is Itaewon in relationship to Seoul?
Itaewon is at the center. It's not too far from the U.S. military base there. A lot of foreigners hang out here, Americans and people from all over, and pretty much is a multicultural environment. A lot of people who live in from different places.
Why did you do this?
Just to see the world. I've traveled a lot teaching English just to see the world. Being a black American, didn't have too much experience in traveling. So I've been traveling since I was about 25. Now I'm about 39, going on 40. So just to get a global experience of the world and how I see the world and the good and bad in the world and the very advantages and disadvantages.
Thanks. Tampa, you're on.
Am I on?
You bet.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I would have to say yes, and not only that, I would have to take it one step further and say that not only we're the greatest country on earth, we are the greatest country in the history on earth, because no country in the history of the world has ever had so much power and used it with such magnanimity as that of the United States of America. And, it's technically a false quote, not technically attributed to Tocqueville if you look back, but we are great because we are good, and when we cease to be good, we are great. And I would like to challenge any caller to say what other country in the world has sacrificed so much blood and treasure sacrificed so much blood and treasure for freedom in the history of the world than that of the United States.
Go back to your Tocqueville quote.
Tocqueville, yeah,
but I mean,
technically not a Tocqueville quote.
Yeah, it's not. He never said it, but
he never said it, but it was the Eisenhower quote, right?
Well, supposedly General Eisenhower was the first one to quote Tocqueville saying it. But why are you that interested in all this? Where did you get that Tocqueville quote in the first place? Or the non.
Well, I've heard it before, and then I went and researched it back, and apparently he didn't make it himself. But yeah, American exceptionalism, right? Yeah.
How old are you?
24, sir.
What are you doing down in Tampa?
Political science / international relations major.
Where?
Yep. USF.
What is that? Southern Florida. University of Southern Florida?
University of South Florida, sir. South
Florida. I'm sorry. Thank you. Fullerton, California, you're on. What about the question generated by Al Newhart this morning? Is this still the greatest country on earth?
Well, thank you for taking my call. I'll say this first. I'm a 64-year-old gentleman, retired, and I think the problem, first of all, to make a statement like that is arrogant in the sense that true greatness is not measured by how much power you have, how well your educational system is, how much money you have, how much Hollywood, your power. It's not measured. True greatness is measured by wisdom. And without that, you don't have greatness. And anyone that can find greatness, I think they would have to be able to live in all the countries of the world and to be able to learn what they can learn from each country, the wisdom of that country, and that's how you can measure greatness. But we don't have the power to do that. So America, to me, and believe me, I'm not speaking against any country because I really feel that it's all one anyway. We're just all mentally separated. But basically, true greatness is measured by wisdom, and it is not measured by power. But I feel that we're conditioned to see power and to see wisdom and all of these things together, which I think is more physical than spiritual.
Centerville, Maryland, we're still asking the question whether or not America continues to be the greatest country on earth as generated by Al Newhart this morning. What do you say?
Well, I do believe that we are, but however, Dennis Miller, talking about a quote, he once said that that's like being valedictorian of summer school. I mean, we're losing what makes and what has made this country great, and that's civil liberties. We're getting RFID chips or whatever they're called in your passports. We're getting in 2008 national ID card. There's not a major city that doesn't have surveillance cameras everywhere. There's a great documentary out by Aaron Russo called America, Freedom to Fascism. I really strongly urge the listeners and viewers to get that DVD. I really think that as a libertarian, we're losing what's made us great.
Next call, we go to Argentina. Where are you in Argentina?
Yes, good morning, sir. First of all, Happy New Year.
Same to you, sir. Where do you live in Argentina?
I live in Entre Rios. That's like 5 hours from Buenos Aires.
And why? What do you think when you hear Americans say that this is the greatest country on earth?
Oh, I agree.
Are you from the United States or are you from Argentina?
I used to live in the United States.
Why are you?
I did twice.
Are you a native Argentinian?
Excuse me?
Are you originally from Argentina?
No, I'm from Paraguay.
Paraguay. So
yeah.
So why?
I travel a lot with my family.
So why do you think this is the greatest country on earth?
Well, first of all, because you guys respect the law, and when you do something wrong, you go to jail, or you pay a fee, a ticket, or something. If you travel very very fast with your car, you have a ticket, right? But here, in other countries, well, you can pay a police a couple of dollars, and you won't have to pay a ticket. You can go on. If you made something bad, you don't go to jail. You just pay something, and you're out. And that's why it's very bad, the situation over here.
Why are you living in Argentina?
Comparing to the United States, of course.
Why are you living in Argentina?
Well, it's a long story, but the best thing of the United States is it's a great country. I agree. I love being there, and I have a lot of friends. The only situation, I believe, the only thing that you guys need to do is fix the thing with the IRS. Excuse me, my bad English.
No, you're doing fine.
Oh.
Thank you. Ashtabula, Ohio, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I'm a teacher, and I'm sort of a history major. And I'm calling because they called George Washington King George, and they called Lincoln nigger lover. And I think the greatest part of America is that we have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and we have a lot of different cultures. And so I think this is the greatest country on earth.
And what do you do now?
I'm a retired teacher right now.
And you taught history?
Well, no, I just taught all subjects, but history was my favorite, and I've studied it a lot.
Have you traveled to other countries?
No, huh?
You've always been inside the United States?
Yes, uh-huh.
Fort Worth, Texas, good morning. What do you say?
Good morning. I would like to make a comment. I think it is the most wonderful country. I've lived here my entire life, never been outside. And I feel that the only thing that's wrong with the system is the government right now is very confused. The IRS, INS, the immigration is so messed up. They're letting in all the rich Islamics, and they're not letting in any poor. That was our original deal, is the poor were supposed to be let in. I don't understand why they've got everything so confused in the INS. It's very horrid. We're living through it now here in Texas, and it's got everybody so torn up, it's awful.
Have you ever traveled to other countries?
I've only been to Mexico. That's the only place I've ever been.
And how do you compare the United States with Mexico?
Well, that's why everybody wants to come over here.
Great Falls, Virginia, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
I think to compare is one of the best, but is not the best. Scandinavian countries are the best, but it's good for themselves and not for American and not for immigrants. But they don't let nobody else go to their country. So America is the only country they invite other people, they let them come, and it's like an ocean, and the other countries are a river. So this is from all the rivers they come here and into this. Do you have any question?
Yes, I do. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Iran. I left there for 33 years. Then I went to Europe. Then I came here 23 years ago.
You said that the Scandinavian countries are better countries, but they won't let anybody in. Why would you be a better country if you didn't let anybody in?
Because it's good for themselves, but they're that selfish. They don't want to let anybody else because they don't think it's going to mess up and they don't have power to do that. But they don't say that. In Europe, everybody says America is blah, blah, blah. But if you watch their TV and listen to radio and all the movies, is they use from America. They all repeat of here.
What do you do here in the United States?
Used to be in car business. I'm retired, sort of, 60 years.
Thanks. New York City, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Brian.
Hi, where are you from originally?
Egypt, Alexandria.
Welcome.
Welcome to you.
What about the question?
America is the greatest country in earth. If we look at it, what we see right now, how is the Democrat against Bush? How they don't want to give him a chance to finish what he started. You know, if anybody in any other country, despite Egypt or any other third world country, if he stay in front of the president and say no, he will disappear next day.
And when did you come to the United States?
23 years ago.
Are you a citizen?
Really, I never applied for it because I feel American. My kid's born here. My daughter is going to be a doctor next year. My son is in high school. I'm taking care of them. You know, it's a great country, but only I'll think about our foreign policy here is not that great, you know.
So what do you do for a living?
Originally, I'm an accountant. I did 3 years flight attendant with Saudi Arabia, and then I came to America 23 years ago.
Singapore is our next call. Good morning, Singapore. Good evening over there. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Doing well. A little nervous here, first-time caller. I wanted to give my perspective from having traveled around the world.
First, before you do that, tell people what Singapore is like. What is it, about 4 million people there?
About 4.5 million, about low 4 million population. The country feels kind of like, almost like, it almost feels like a benevolent dictatorship, though the government is not that way. It has free elections and so forth, but it feels like a country that has a lot of control over its future, over how money is spent in reinvesting into the country, foreign investment, how it comes in, goes out.
There used to be a time where the Singapore newspapers were censored. Are they still censored?
I'm not in a perspective to say so because I don't really feel that. When I read the newspaper, I don't really feel that I'm getting that. The Straits Times seems to me pretty commercial, pretty open.
What are you doing there?
My wife is Singaporean, and so we're visiting family and friends, and I come here often. I come here about 6 times a year. I'm a U.S. citizen, but I was born in what is now Zimbabwe, Rhodesia. My father's British, English. I came to the States in '79 with a wave of immigrants from Mexico, Cambodia, Vietnam, and my feeling is based on that. I came in where we were all uniformed in a sense that we all wanted to be American. We're very proud to become an American. And it seems like as the years have gone by, there's a lot of disrespect in my own community for what it means to be American. I hear a lot of illegal immigration issues, a lot of illegal immigrants calling themselves what I was once, which is I didn't become a U.S. citizen until 1997. I was a legal resident. I'm very proud of it. I followed the law, abided by the law, respected the United States as it is. So did my parents. We had to prove we could come in here, and we weren't going to violate the laws, and we weren't going to bring in any social problems that would cause the rest of the citizens here problems. And I see a lot of disrespect for that. I see a lot of respect being and homage being paid to people who break the law in a way that I wouldn't have done.
You're talking about here?
Yes.
And,
yeah.
And when was the last time you lived here in the United States?
Oh, I do. I live in the U.S. now. I live in California. I happen to come to Singapore often. I'm calling from Singapore today. And I have a lot of respect for the way the Singaporean government keeps things clean, safe, secure. I have no problem with my wife who is expecting, we're expecting a child. I have no problem with her walking the streets of Singapore, late at night if she needed to go out to get something to eat or drink. But in my own community, I'm always concerned about that.
How old are you?
I'm 33 years old.
And what do you do for a living?
I work offshore in the oil industry. I work for one of the 7 major well drilling companies. I'm a dynamic positioning officer. I'm a navigator, a U.S. Merchant Marine licensed officer. Also work corporate. But my key points I wanted to get across today to share with the people, the viewers of your show, are that I'm a person who comes from many different perspectives. I've been in many different countries, from Spain to Central America to Asia, the United States. I don't feel the United States is the greatest country anymore. It hurts me, it pains me. I feel it's a great country, great nation. And part of the reason for my love and respect for the United States has to do with the fact that I am one of those people that, the Statue of Liberty, give us you're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses, you need to be free. We came in legally, and we came in respecting the United States. I came in at the end of the Cold War, so to speak, the beginning of Ronald Reagan, and I feel very American because of that. And where I see kids today with their lack of care for their educations, people coming in who expect a handout, who aren't willing to reinvest in the nation, a lot of money being sent out of the country, it disturbs me. Also, what other nations would consider as the very first and foremost care, which is their own citizens, and reinvestment in their own nation. I don't really see a lot of that taking place in the U.S. I see something like that in Singapore, where every time I come to this country, and I come here often, I come here every 2 or 3 months. Every time I come here, I see something new. Every time I come here, where it's been renewed, it's clean, and it's safe. There's some improvement, and I don't really see that back home.
Thank you. So far, if you've just joined us, we're talking about a column this morning by Al Newharth, who is the founder of USA Today. And he's talking about a dinner that his creation, the Freedom Forum, sponsors every year in the Supreme Court. And they have the new senators and some of the existing leaders and Chief Justice Roberts. They all spoke earlier this week at a big dinner. And he closed out his column by saying, everybody was saying at the dinner, this is still the greatest country on earth, and we're asking you whether or not you agree with that or not. This morning we've heard from people who were born and live in this country from Haiti, Morocco, Iran, Guyana, and Egypt and Zimbabwe, and we've taken calls from Australia, South Korea, and Singapore, and we have lines open. Put it on the screen if we could again, the number internationally for those of you who want to join us. Those are our Eastern and Central time zone. There's our international number, 628-0184. That's 202-628-0184. Join us from outside the country. We'd particularly like to hear from people who aren't Americans. And when you hear that stated by Americans that we think we're the greatest country on earth, what's your reaction to that? Rockford, Illinois, you're on the air. Please go ahead.
Hello, how are you?
Fine.
Yeah, that last speaker was very intelligent. It's hard to follow up with that. But I think that anybody that lives in the United States and doesn't think this is the greatest country on earth should move to the greatest country on earth. I think the benefits here are great. I think we're giving away a lot. I'm a UAW worker, and I think things have changed since I was a child. But
in what way?
I think this used to be, there are too many things outsourced to different countries. There are too many things going overseas, and it's costing the United States a lot of jobs.
Our unemployment rate is quite low, though. It's 4.5% at this stage.
Yeah, but the quality of jobs, I think, has changed. I mean, anybody can get a job at McDonald's or Beefaroo or Burger King. Those kind of jobs are up. Walmart obviously is hiring.
Have you had a chance to travel overseas at all?
Yeah, I've been out of the country. I'm not huge. I've been out of the country like 4 or 5 times. And our standard of living here is great. I love it here in the United States. And
Laurel, Maryland, thank you for joining us. Good morning. What do you say?
Good morning, Brian.
Hi.
First off, if I were your mom or dad, I would say, my God, I'm proud of you. You've done a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Second of all, for me, there is no doubt in my mind that not only is this the greatest country, but it's a country that's improving. And the reason I say that is that I just think about myself at 40 or 41 now. I think about what my father and grandfather experienced in this same country and how many more opportunities I have and I look at my son and think about how many more opportunities that he'll have that I didn't even have, just because this country has moved slowly and steadily towards more freedom, I think, over its history. And it's just getting better, and, you know, people have opportunity.
Next call, Des Moines. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm on air.
You're on.
How you doing, Mr. Brian Lamb?
I'm doing fine, sir. What do you think about, is this the greatest country on earth?
I have to say, as being an American who's born here, never been outside this country, yeah, but, you know, I'm a truck driver. I go 48 states, so I can judge it from that point of view. I think I've seen a lot of this country. I mean, I've been to almost every state in this country, with the exception of Hawaii. I don't think I can drive my truck that far. But it's a beautiful country. It's got so many great opportunities, and there's so many great people live here, Brian. But
tell me about your what do you drive, an 18-wheeler?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you done that?
I've done that for the last 13 years, Brian.
And you've been in all 48 of the lower 48 states?
All the lower 48 states, and I've seen them all. And you know what? I was listening to these people comment on the phone, and I don't know when you let that woman slip by, and that what she said about President Lincoln. Did you hear what she said?
I did not. I heard her, but
she used the N-word, Brian.
I heard her. Yes.
Okay. Now you know what? As a truck driver.
No, let me tell you though. She used the N-word to define what people back then were saying about Abraham Lincoln.
Right. Okay. Then let me say this then, Brian. Okay, so you understand where I'm coming from. As a truck driver, and as a truck driver, one of his biggest tools is a CB set, right?
Right.
See, a CB radio, where he stay in contact with all the other trucks, you see. And going through these 48 states, I think there's maybe one. I haven't heard the word. That N-word being used by other truck drivers all over the country, or other people who use a CB, and they usually call you a nigger, a porch monkey, biscuit lips, you know. And I used to get upset when I hear that, Brian, for being a black man. But you know what? You know what I tell them now? Since what happened on 9/11, I tell them 9/11. After 9/11 and during the day of 9/11, these truck drivers were so patriotic. And I told them, I said, on 9/11, you guys wasn't saying those words like that. You didn't say those kind of bad words. You know what they said then, Brian, for almost 2 or 3 weeks after 9/11, up to maybe a month though. They said, God bless America. United we stand. We got to be together. And I said, well, let me ask you something. What part do you think? What part do you don't understand that God will not bless anything phony like that? Brian, you have a safe day, man. See you.
Hey, don't go away. You still there? Sure. I want to ask you about, are you saying that today, when you listen to the Citizens Band radio and you're on the road, that people are still using words like the N-word?
Oh my man, Brian, you would be surprised. You would be surprised and shocked. You would be surprised and shocked. I'm not just talking about Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. I'm talking about all different places like Maine, New York. You know, and if people came from another country and just had to turn the CB radio on and say, well, let me see what America's talking about, they would be shocked.
Thanks. Douglasville, Georgia, you're on the air.
Hey, how are you?
Fine.
I would say I've been in a lot of places in the world. America offers the greatest capacity for greatness, but I would not say that it's the greatest country in the world just off the top. I mean, there are many things that we're great at, and there are many things that we're actually very poor at.
What would be the greatest country in the world, in your opinion?
Well, there is no one great country, but I mean, I could give you a few. I think China's a great country. I think Iran is a great country. South Korea.
Would you want to live in any of those places?
Actually, I would like to visit those places for sure. I don't know if I want to live there.
Would you give up your American citizenship, you think, to live in another country?
Absolutely not. You know, I was born in this country. You know, I love this country, but at the same time, I recognize its strengths and its weaknesses. It has many strengths, and it also has, you know, many weaknesses.
What do you do in Douglasville?
I work as a sales manager for an auto dealership.
How old are you?
44.
Thanks for joining us. Provo, Utah, you're on the air.
Hi, thank you. I agree with a lot of what the last caller said. As an African American man, I live in Provo, Utah's a pretty racist state. I've lived all over the country. I'm a disabled vet, and it really disturbs me that, you know, you have these immigrants that come in who who have fled their countries because they didn't want to stay there and make a better way of life for themselves and change the things that they didn't like, come here and tout how great this country is without making any sacrifices or having any intimate knowledge of the history of this country. Before the Americans can say that this is the greatest country in the world, we really have to take a close look at our history and the way in which we treated children, the elderly, the vets, the poor, our educational system, our legal system, our political system, and look at these things, because when you refuse to look at these things and see the injustice in these things, then and in the same breath tout how great this country is, or being the greatest country in the world, to me that in itself is pretty disturbing.
Have you been outside of the country?
Oh yes. I was in special operations for most of my stint in the military, and I've been all over the world. I can't say that I would give my American citizenship up to live anywhere else in the world because I've shed blood on foreign soil for this country.
How about talk about Utah for a moment? It's a very there's not many ethnics, not many African Americans there. It's a very white state. How are you treated there compared to other places you've lived?
I'm gonna tell you, in all honesty, I've never been treated worse in my life in any state. You know, the Mormons, they incorporated bigotry and racism into their religion, and I was living in Utah when African Americans were allowed into the to become full members of the Mormon Church back in the late 70s, and they were forced into doing this. There was a case that was up in the Supreme Court that stemmed out of Bob Jones University, where a interracial couple were being kicked out of school for dating, and they were basically in a situation where they were going to lose their tax exempt status. All of a sudden, the Mormon Church did a 360 when they saw which direction that the courts were going in, and I just feel that the United States is a great country, but we can't neglect to look at our history and the contributions of people of color in this world. I mean, in this country, and the sacrifices and the suffering that they've gone through.
How old are you?
I'm in my late 40s.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm disabled.
Totally disabled?
Yeah, I'm stuck here in Utah, so that makes the situation even worse.
Thanks. Puerto Rico, you're next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for a very interesting program. I'd like to split, if I may, the idea of America being the greatest country in the world into two areas, or maybe even three. The people of America, whom I have met, I've lived in the States for about 14 years, are simply marvelous.
Where are you
Black,
from?
White. I'm English.
Okay.
The people really are the nicest people I ever met. They're gentle, courteous. Sometimes they're refined. But when it comes to governmental policies, not merely the president and his administration, but also in the Congress and in the Senate, I'm afraid American governmental systems leave a great deal to be desired.
Like what?
Education, for a start. Education here in the States is lagging severely behind. People are coming out of high school still unable to read and write, and people are going through university courses where the majority of them barely receive what I would consider to be a high school education.
Is it better in Great Britain?
It's better across the whole of Europe. In the whole of Europe, it's mandated, for example, mandated by law, that every child will learn at least 3 languages. And here you have a situation where you have people in Congress trying to say only English, when you have more than 200 languages being spoken in your country because of your immigration permissiveness, if you like.
What do you do in Puerto Rico?
I'm a design engineer.
And how long have you lived there?
I've lived here for 2 years. My wife and I lived in New Haven, Connecticut for the 12 years prior to that.
Thank you, caller. Oahu, Hawaii, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Bear with me, this is my first time calling, but kind of a lot of things I would like to say, but, you know, the first thing I could say, I haven't traveled out of the U.S. very much. I've been out a couple times last year. But, you know, looking around the world and kind of just seeing what I can on TV and reading, I'd have to say honestly that I really wouldn't want to live anywhere else. However, this whole thing, the greatest thing that the U.S. is the greatest is kind of hard to just sum up, because I think what makes the country so good, or so great, if you want to call it that, was America's ability as a country and a government to change rapidly as the times called for. You know what I mean? As progress, or as the years moved on, America and the way it's set up allows for change and for mistakes to be made and for people to recoup from those mistakes. We allow that.
Why do you live in Oahu, Hawaii?
I was born and raised.
You were. And do people out there, and it's far away, you know, it's 5-6 hour flight from the West Coast, do they feel like they're a part of the United States?
For the most part, yeah. But in a lot of ways, you can also say we feel like we're outside as well. I mean, a lot of people who come here definitely feel they're in a foreign land, you know, in some ways. But I mean, we're American as well, just like everywhere else.
What time is it there this morning?
It's about 2:45.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm self-employed. I just sell on the internet, so which is, you know, I'm able to do. It's weird though, because I mean, I have serious issues with our government right now for many different issues, and I think that's one thing that's going to cause problems for this tagline, if you will. Our government at this point has just stepped over its own borders to in so many ways it's hard to even comprehend, which seems to drag us down. But at the heart of it all, I think America is able to, as a country, and the people that are in this country are able to kind of pick ourselves up, and move on and move forward and try and do the best we can. I'll have to say that I think we're the greatest, but that I don't think we are the best that we can be.
Terre Haute, Indiana. Good morning. We're about out of time. Linda Robinson of U.S. News will join us in just a moment. We'll talk about the war. Go ahead, please.
You're talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
Okay. I think, number one, our Constitution was set up in such a way with the checks and balances that even when we had a president like Nixon, the country recovered so beautifully and fast, and we just witnessed a transition of power in Congress from the Republicans to the Democrats. Well, there are some bad words, but there are no shots fired like it would be in many other countries.
Where are you from originally?
I was born in Romania, then lived through Auschwitz, lived in Israel, and from Israel I came to the United States.
How long have you been in the United States?
46 years.
I assume you're a citizen?
I am a citizen and a proud citizen, and I wouldn't live anywhere else in the world. Also, the opportunity in the United States, no other country will provide the opportunity for people who work hard, who have intelligence and an education or a talent to rise to the top. Number three, we help all the countries in the world, and they expect us to help. And this is basically still the only country there is trouble anywhere in the world. We are the ones who are paying with our money, with our lives, with our dedication to help the world be a better place.
Let me go back to the fact you're from Romania. Did you say that you survived Auschwitz?
Yes, I did.
How old were you when you were there?
I was 10 years old. So I'm going to be 73 this month.
How often do you think about that experience?
Well, I don't think about it, but I have a Holocaust museum here in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I lecture extensively to students throughout United States. so that the issue does come up. But I have forgiven the Nazis. And that becomes a plus and a minus. Survivors don't like it. I feel it's an act of self-healing. And so therefore I am in some demand by some people who want to understand how can somebody lose her whole family being used in experiments as a guinea pig and still rise above it and look at it as an experience that was extremely difficult, but I am not defeated by it.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us, and I wish we had more time to talk to you. We have time for one more call, and then we'll bring Linda Robinson here to the set. Frankfurt, Ohio, you're on the air.
Hello, Brian. How
Hi.
are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
What would you like to say about this country, and is it the greatest country on earth?
I think it is the greatest country on earth. I grew up in Appalachian country, and I saw a lot of revelation happen over time of growth of how our country has grown. The only sad part, I'm 66 years old now, and in the past 6 years, I feel like we've gone towards more imperialism. And to me, I don't mean to be disparagingly, but to me, our president is the worst thing since original sin because of the direction of our country. But I still love our country, and I have hopes that it will grow, and it is my prayer that my attitude will change.
Thanks, caller. And thanks to the 34 people that called us during the last hour. We heard from people who were born in Haiti, Morocco, Iran, Guyana, Egypt, Zimbabwe, Great Britain, and Romania, and got calls from Australia, South Korea, and Singapore. And we thank you very much. Come back in just a minute and 30 seconds for Linda Robinson of U.S. News.
Watergate made Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein two of the most controversial and influential journalists of our time. On C-SPAN's American Political Archive, award-winning journalist and professor Alicia Shepard shares her interviews with the pair, recorded during the writing of her latest book, Woodward and Bernstein, Life in the Shadow of Watergate. This Saturday, her exclusive interview with Carl Bernstein. Also, Ms. Shepard will comment on her first access to never-before-seen archive materials, including the Watergate Papers. That's American Political Archive, this Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern on C-SPAN Radio. Listen to C-SPAN Radio on Sirius Satellite Radio Channel 139 and XM Satellite Radio Channel 132 and on cspanradio.org. Former Arkansas Governor Republican Mike Huckabee, Sunday, on C-SPAN's Road to the White House 2008. Governor Huckabee speaks on his career, his potential run for the presidency, and his new book, From Hope to Higher Ground, 12 Stops to Restoring America's Greatness. Governor Mike Huckabee, Sunday at 6:30 and 9:30 p.m. on C-SPAN's Road to the White House 2008. Road to the White House is also available as a C-SPAN podcast.